Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us today. This is Sunil Chandy for Food for Thought, a program out of Christ Church in Westerly. And today, being Friday, we will be having a pre-recorded session. And it is also a very special session for me because today my guest is going to be my wife. And Ben, our producer, Ben Barber, our producer, will be interviewing both of us. So I invite both Ben and Simi to come on board with us. Hi, Sim.
Hi.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. So we're this is pretty fun. And kind of a new experience where I get to interview both of you. So
By the way, thank you so much for all that you do, Ben. And it's great to kind of get this trinity together right now.
Really
yes.
appreciate all your help.
Oh, thank you very much, Simi. I've essentially become his work wife at this point. So so let's start at the beginning with you guys. When did you meet?
Want me to start?
Yeah.
So, well, we met back in 1993, towards the end of that year, December. The conversation started. You know, marriage is a completely different concept when it comes to our Indian culture and Indian traditions. It has changed over time, but at that time, 26 years back or 25 years back, when we were getting into the process of, of talking about this, it was much different. You know, we were into our families are involved. It's a big family affair. A lot of prayer is involved, and so we met through our parents and our extended family members who knew each other. And then in January of 1994 is when we really met and got married at that time too. And then it's like dating after marriage. We got married first, and then we started dating each other.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was an arranged marriage. We had proposals about. She had about 5, and I had about 6, and we finally ours was the last of each.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Some things work out, So what was your first impressions of each other then, since that was such a, I mean, it's unique for us, but obviously it's not unique for your culture, especially not at that time. So what were your first impressions for each other, considering that, it was dating after marriage?
Well, I tell you, I think her dad liked me more than she did at the time. I was a priest. At the time, I was already ordained, and I think they and our families knew of each other, and I think they thought, okay, having a priest for son-in-law is not that bad, and he'll treat her well. At least that's what I think they did.
Yeah. But the irony is that my grandparents, like I said before, is a family affair. Your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, your extended family are all involved just to find the right, perfect person for me, right? And the irony is that my grandfather, my dad's father, he always prayed, God, please bring a God-loving, a God-fearing son for her, and a person that knows you. And that's what he always prayed. And lo and behold, I got married to a priest, which I never thought in my entire life, growing up, that I would get married to a priest. But, then I finally thought that not everybody has this calling, just like not everybody has the calling to be a priest. So likewise, I don't think everybody has only a few people have that calling to be a minister's wife or a minister. So that's what I kept thinking. Why did God bring this person to me? And so all that thought process went in. And then after I saw him, I kind of connected with him because, like he said before, we had 5 people or 6 people ahead of him that we saw and met and talked. But something connected between when I saw him, and that's what made me like him and say yes to the proposal.
Number one, I like that there was still, choice in the matter, which
Oh
is
yes,
which
yes,
is fantastic.
yeah.
And so yeah, let's speak on that for a minute, because being a minister's wife is a ministry unto itself. And so that is sort of a big thing to take on, obviously, and especially not, the dating after marriage thing is very interesting, and the arranged marriage thing is very interesting when you're marrying a priest, because it comes with so much more than just marriage. I mean, you're marrying him and whatever congregation he happens to be leading.
Yeah.
So, how was that transition at first, and then what has the last, almost the 27 years, 26 years? What have the last 26 years been like of that? So the transition first, and then just the last 26 years of sharing in this ministry.
Yeah, it's been rough. I gotta say, it's not been bed of roses. Definitely, it's been really.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, Sunil has been through so many. He has had experiences, rough experiences, and sweet experiences. Not all rough, but there has been many sweet memories too. But the challenge has been really tough, and especially as he got accepted or received into the Episcopal Church. That was where he really started his ministry, and that was back in Hoboken, New Jersey. And from there, getting into the ministry, being accepted by the wider community as a colored person, and me especially coming from India and not having much exposure to this, culture was a little shock for me initially, but it didn't take me a long time to transition over, because I grew up basically in a very diverse culture back in my hometown too. And I grew up in a co-ed school, went to a Catholic school. So I had that exposure to Western culture. But after I came to this country, seeing that what he did, handling a parish, and it was hard, especially when he started to have his own church. And then we had our kids too. Alex was born, our oldest one, he was born in 1999, sorry. I have to think about it. But, with the kids, and then the burden of the church, it was kind of hard. And the first church that he had on his own was a vicar, right?
A vicar's church. So all of the ministries that we've been involved with were places where people have had, problem situations before.
Yeah.
And so either the priest, there was abusive situation, and then whatever was left behind was the church at its smallest and its weakest. And it was all those, and our ministry has always been go to a place that's really been challenged and build it up. Yeah. But in the midst of that, there's also been people who are angry, frustrated, and the first church we had a priest who was accused of 16 counts of sexual misconduct before I came, and then before him was a priest who embezzled funds out of the Episcopal Church, and then right before I came there, it was a mission congregation. This was a great congregation, but the person had bipolar disorder. So he wasn't trying to treat himself, and so the church was. By the time we got there, about 25 on a Sunday. And then
two young kids
and
toddlers, yeah.
And so and the people there were very disillusioned, disaffected, angry. They didn't know whether to trust a priest, and here I was filled with all this energy, right? And it was a tough ministry.
It was tough, but there were good people too. They just needed some guidance, some support, some emotional strength, and support and love. And there were big challenges, So when he came home with all this baggage that he was dealing with, I was there to talk with him. I was there to support him. I was there to advise him and give him and talk it out, talk the problem out. And that's what my role has been throughout the ministry, being support to my husband and also taking care of my kids and my home, and also being able to do as much as I can for the church, because I'm a full-time, I'm a pharmacist, so I work full-time. So, I have to juggle all these. So that's what my role has been.
So I'm gonna go into a pharmacy question in a few minutes because I know that Father Sunil also has a background. So I'm very interested in that. But first, I would be remiss if I don't follow up on the church question, because you have these situations where you're going into these churches that are sort of may feel disenfranchised. And then so that's difficult on its own. But then also going into the church as a priest and wife of color into what I assume is probably predominantly white churches.
Yeah.
Did that add to so if you have a congregation where they're feeling disenfranchised and there's a wound from this previous minister that was there, that feels like they want change. And then what were those situations like coming into those? Because I would imagine, unfortunately, like the unfortunate truth is, I'm sure that sometimes that probably wasn't an easy transition.
No, that's a beautiful question. So the reason why we're moved towards these ministries is that precisely because Ben, you can bring Braden in if you want, just to say hello. Come on, yeah.
Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
He's just asking where the phone charger is. Just take the charger out of the iPad and plug it into the phone, okay? Sorry about that.
No.
Let's get back to the serious question.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think part of it is that, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I go into those situations. So Trinity Vineland was the first one. Then there's St. Andrews, Mount Holly. Then even coming to Christ Church, there's always a situation where people are in a moment of transition, and I think that's when they are most open to God, and that's where I found, and they're most humble. I think I think that's probably why I part of it may be on my own prejudice. Sometimes I don't think that the churches that are really doing really well would be open to a person of color to come in and lead them. And I've struggled with that, because that's almost not having faith in the people of God. And I've struggled with that a lot. But regardless, those are I go to those places of challenge because I figured that the only way they could do is, if they're open enough, if they're on their knees and humble enough to receive someone, to receive God, then we could do so many different things, because then we're open to God doing the work. And in the end, I think all of those ministries, I mean, with Trinity Vineland, that was a success story. We moved from 25 on a Sunday to 150 on a Sunday. We were engaged in ministry in the congregation, in the community. We had a lot of connection with all these folks. It was hard to leave, but it was hard to stay because of all the stuff that we've gone through. And it was kind of hard, but it also helped. One of the things that happened with me is that I learned to trust in God more. I knelt at the altar many times on a kneeler. There's like an indentation on the kneeler in front of that altar, where I would just really cry out to God almost, and then come home, and Simi and I would pray and cry out, and it was just beautiful. I mean, I think it strengthened our marriage because we were going through this challenge together. It also strengthened our faith in God, you know?
Yeah, and the strength to be in either one of those situations, going into a church that had previously had issues, and going into a predominantly white church, and just not knowing what the reaction would be like, and then navigating those waters. Both of those things takes such an amount of strength, that so to do those things together,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense that that would be the situation.
And also, when I go into a church, right, a new church, I always look beyond, past our color, our differences. I always try to see the person who's in front of me or behind me, around me, and I just accept the person, and that's basically what it is. I don't see the color. I just see a human being in front of me, a person, who has the same blood that I have, or the chemistry, but we may be different backgrounds and culture, but it's, after all, it's a human that we need to treat just like we would treat ourselves. And that's what
Yeah, and I think that's what I think in those congregations, at first they may say, so the first thing is choosing a priest who is a person of color means that they're open, right?
Yeah.
Then what happens is when we get there, what people understand, the people who chose us are open enough to understand that they're open to the Spirit of God coming in, and maybe leading them in a different way. But then what happens is other people then join in the ministry when they feel the sense of welcome. And I remember even in that first congregation, and then every congregation afterwards, people would always say at the very beginning, we expected you to be with a turban or coming on an elephant or with a heavy accent or something. But then after they get to know us, the color doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have the heritage, and I bring all of me to the table, right? But they look past that and they embrace it, like even at Christ Church Westerly, right? One of the things that, after the first 2 years or something, we established that India night. I mean, a Christ Church, we're open. My brother comes in and we're cooking, and the men's fellowship. I mean, 20 guys, amazing guys, Caswell Cook and those men's fellowship. We all come together to cook, and we feed to over 200 people, and people are loving it and they're embracing it. That's just the joy. I mean, this year would have been, last year was the last year we did it for India night, but we were going to do Polish night. It's like, this year we didn't do Polish night. We were going to, and what happened was that's the beauty of it. We were looking past color to see the human being, past the label.
Absolutely, and that was beautifully said. And I think that the embracing of it, I think, is important too, because that's the you have all of that. You have the heritage, and it's who you are, but it's not, it's a part of who you are, the same way that it's a part of who everyone is.
Yeah.
But it's not, there's so much more. And in general, so I think that the embracing of it is so beautiful. And I can't wait until next year, or whenever this is all over, this craziness is over, because I would love to attend one of those. That would be wonderful. So I want to swing back to the pharmacy thing, the pharmacist thing, because first of all, that's amazing, and that's a tremendous work that you're doing, Simi. But in addition, you're welcome. Thank you. But in addition to that, Father Sunil, were you not also a pharmacist? Did you not also go to school for that?
Yeah.
But that must have been before you met her.
Yeah. It was. I was a pharmacist. I went to pharmacy school, Rutgers School of Pharmacy. Loved it. Embraced it. I was biochem major, then switched over into pharmacy with the idea of doing medical school and then medical missionary. But then that's when it was in at the end of my pharmacy career that my father got his heart attack, and then all of this third heart attack, and life changed for me. And then after the pharmacy degree, I started seminary and went to ordination. And it was just, and my father died in the midst of while I was in seminary. And so,
but you were also working as an evening supervisor at Hackensack Medical Center,
right? Yeah.
For many years. And he worked as a pharmacy consultant. So he continued his pharmacy career
Before being received into the Episcopal
Church.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That was in 1998. Right?
Yeah. It was like I was working as so I was ordained in the Church of South India, working as a priest, helping with as a part-time priest, working priest. And then what happened was and then doing the pharmacy work, and became a
director of
pharmacy.
psych hospital.
Yeah.
Director position, and a lot of
it was
transitions.
It was a lot of transitions.
Yeah.
But I always worked hard.
Yeah.
Worked hard. I loved pharmacy. But it was just we every time I came back home from pharmacy, and I did well in pharmacy, but every time I came back home, there was what I really loved doing was ministry, being with the church, being with the people, helping things grow, connect, and we'd talk. We'd have all these.
It's beautiful stories that he always came and said. He went to nursing home as a consultant pharmacist, and he would sit with the older parishioners and help them recite or say the Lord's Prayer and all that. And then he would come home and say, "This is what I want to really do. I want to be full-time minister." And then I would say, "Just stop complaining. Just go. And leave me alone. I'm tired of hearing this." Yeah. And then,
Oh man,
did bring in a lot more money than being a priest, right?
Yeah. So Simi, tell me about your career.
Well, along with I followed him wherever he went, right? So my career also transitioned every time. I had a lot of changes in my career too. But pharmacy has been great. I love the profession pharmacy, and being a pharmacist it's tough as the time goes along. There's a lot more. It's becoming very demanding. Pharmacists are not just behind the counter anymore. They're doing a lot more, especially in the hospitals. They're on rounds with the doctors. They're making recommendations. They're taking care of the patients overall, and they're out there everywhere. So it's a beautiful, beautiful profession. Whoever wants to go into pharmacy is great. But it's challenging. It's long. It's 6 years, and sometimes it could be 8 years. And so it's very hard.
And let me just jump in here. I want to tell you that I'm proud of her, because what happened was when she comes from India, I have only the BS in pharmacy, but the normal degree now, after the year I graduated, the normal degree is a doctorate in pharmacy. And so she was grandfathered in with the BS in pharmacy, and then she
grandfathered in.
I had
to take the exams and all that. I had to take my license exam and all that. And then, but she went back to school to get her doctorate in pharmacy, and that was amazingly difficult. It was challenging because I had kids in middle school, high school, and trying to do full-time school work and then part-time school. It was hard, but I did it. I accomplished that goal. My kids saw it, and what Philip actually said is that he would love to go into PhD one day after I got my certificate. He was so excited, and that's what basically it was, to show that I'm not going to give up, though it may be a challenge. There are times when I said I want to give up. I can't do school anymore with all this that's going on, but I survived. And
it was beautiful.
That's such a beautiful story, and just another testament to your strength, which is incredible. So I do have a question going back to the placement, right, and the way that you go from church to church as an Episcopal priest is a little bit. So from what I can take, because you said, if they chose us, they were open regardless. So if I'm under the right assumption here, and they're completely assumptions, because as you know, I've grown up a Baptist my whole life in a church that wasn't even connected to any sort of organized Baptist hierarchy. So for a Catholic priest, the diocese will send you somewhere, right? But for an Episcopal priest, the individual church's vestry has the choice of who to hire. Is that correct?
Yeah. So usually, so the diocese and the vestry work together, and so when a priest finishes their call, when they feel that their ministry is ended in one particular place, then they call for a search, and the vestry, along with the bishop, institute a committee called the search committee, and they receive applications from the larger Episcopal Church and the diocese, and they interview these folks, and so it's an extensive process. And so this call, even for Christ Church Westerly, I mean, we had a transition at Christ Church for, I mean, in the span of 5 years, we had about 8 people, 8 priests who were kind of in charge and then left and came on board, and all wonderful, capable priests. In fact, Christine Purcell was the priest that preceded me, and she was beloved in the parish, but she stayed for about a year, and so she had to leave, and so that's where the congregation was really reeling, and at Christ Church Westerly, we've had about I think we had a number of applicants, a good number of applicants. And then for me, I was in the search process also with several different places, and there were three places that we were looking at, and then finally the interview. Everything was people connected. I connected. I mean, Caswell, he was on that search committee. The first thing after our first interview, he texted me. I mean, I didn't expect that. He texted me and just said, he's into social media, and basically just said, "Hello, thank you for interviewing with us. It was great. Just wanted to connect with you, and this is our website," and so forth. And so there was a good connection with the folks. But what happens in HOM Ministries at Christ Church at Trinity Vineland, we were there for about 5 years.
Mm.
Before that, I was a curate or an assistant at All Saints Hoboken, and then Christ Church Ridgewood, another cardinal parish in the Diocese of Newark. And then we went to the mission at Trinity Vineland, and then from there, St. Andrew's Mount Holly. I was the rector there for about 8 years. Again, the situation was that a priest was in handcuffs. They left in handcuffs because of domestic abuse, and we built that ministry up too, and it was just great. And then there was so for me, it's like when you know that the congregation is good, that they could move on, that there's a sense that you help them through the hard part. Now they could look forward to continue to do Christ's work in the community. And so I came to Christ Church Westerly, and so there's a lot of work for us to still do. I think we've gone through this capital campaign, which we did really well. Where our church is amazing. We've got some amazing staff. We're dealing with this present challenge, and we're bringing people on like you, Ben. And we're really extending our ministry and doing different things. So, we'll continue to do Christ's work here.
Obviously, the people of Christ Church hope that this isn't for a very long time. But what do you have any goals for the future of your ministry and your life's work? I mean, would you, for example, like to become a bishop someday or something? And Simi, how would you feel about something like that? I mean, is there what you've done. You've done a lot of tremendous work in a lot of communities that have really needed you and benefited you. Both of you, by the way, wholeheartedly, both of you. It's a team effort. Are there things many, many years from now, when the day comes where you're ready to leave Christ Church at 2082, is there is there a goal, something else that you would feel unfulfilled if you didn't try to do?
Yeah. What I I leave it up to God. We pray about it and we say, God, show us a way, wherever we are, where we should be, what we should do. I always pray about it, and we pray in our family prayers too, which we have almost every day with the kids, and so it's all up to God. I mean, sure, he has ambitions. Sure, is that one day maybe, I don't know.
I think like part of it is like my prayer is always just to be the best priest I could be, and wherever I could be helpful right now. I mean, I think that's where it is. I mean, wherever there's ministry to be done,
right,
and engage in it and do what I can.
It's beautiful. Before I let you go, let's talk about the kids for a second, because obviously, being the wife of a minister is difficult, but being the child of a minister is not easy as well, and has its challenges. Number one being forced acolyteship during a global pandemic.
I know.
I know. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How are the kids doing during all of this?
I gotta tell you one thing. It's first off, it's hard to be the wife of a minister, and I think hard to be the son or daughter of a minister. But it's hard to be the son or daughter of Sunil Chandy. Or the wife.
Is it hard to be the wife of Sunil Chandy?
That's where I say, mellow it down so that there's not much friction.
Oh my God! Yeah, I know. It's like,
and I approach in a sweet way.
Yeah, and
so the kids would listen.
I'm the best pastor to everybody else's kids except my own. I think the best.
No, but the kids have been wonderful.
They have been.
Alex especially. He's been, so supportive and being there for him. And Philip, he kind of said that it's not an actual service. I
know, that's the struggle.
And that's why he's struggling with it. It's an online service, which is not real actual church. And so why do I have to go to church?
I think that's the same thing that our congregation people are struggling with this. I mean, the only thing I tell him, and I tell our congregation members, that this is the only access we have right now, of being with each other, connecting with one another. And so we make the best of it and do what we can. But he did acolyte.
He did acolyte.
And he'll continue to come in and acolyte. But I'm getting Daniel. I want him to be trained too. But Daniel's like being in the lion's den sometimes.
No, but the kids, they've been through all these challenges and through our journey, and they know what it is, and so they understand what it is for him to do this ministry. So,
and they're good kids. I'm so happy. God has blessed us.
Well, thank you guys so much for giving us such an in-depth look to your relationship and your struggles and your triumphs and your family. And thank you both for the ministry that you guys have brought to Christ Church and to the greater Westerly community. And now, via this, Simi, it's one thing to be the wife of a priest, but now to be the wife of a priest who is essentially on TV every single day, that has its own challenges, I would assume. That the access to Father Sunil is so great now, and people from old parishes in New Jersey and from India and from Arizona and Florida and all over the world are watching him every single day, which is kind of amazing. And So I just want to, for my part, say thank you to both of you for everything that you do for Christ Church, for the community, and for everyone that you interact with. So thank you guys very much. And I'm going to be the one that leaves.
Okay.
So, see ya.
See ya. Of course, Ben, we want to thank you. Your ministry is powerful. We're grateful for you, and your talents are amazing. You, Shane, and Caswell, and Jackie, our parish administrator, the whole gang. It's just beautiful. It's extending the ministry well, and God bless you for what you do. So, folks, I think what we'll do is we'll end with this prayer for the coronavirus that we have from Bishop Tom Brown, and we'll end with the Lord's Prayer together. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Jesus Christ, you traveled through towns and villages, curing every disease and illness. At your command, the sick were made well. Come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus. Heal those who are sick with the virus.
Thanks for watching. Did you know that you can join Christ Church from anywhere in the world? If you're feeling connected to what we're doing, email us today at communicate@christchurchwesterly.org.